Every time that happens, I forget that it's there. Too funny. Anyway, give me one sec. Okay. I'm only here because it's been a while. I'm so not in the mood. If I'm honest with you, I'm really not in the mood for it. But I do need to at least show up and do a little bit of a stream and say hello. I think I'm in a I can't do more than I'm not a very good multitasker. In the sense that yes, I do juggle a lot, but if something is requiring my like immediate focus, it's very hard to pull myself out of that hyper focus. And right now, I'm hyper focused on well, a couple of things. You can't hyper focus on a couple of things, which is why I think I'm so stressed out. It's because I've got too many things going. But oh, hi, Stephen's here. Okay, good-o. Yes, cool emoji. Hello. I really had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to talk about today. So fucking, I just turned it on and I ran out of time and I went to have a coffee and then like it was ready to stream and I was like, fuck, I haven't even looked at what I might want to talk about. Someone did mention on Twitter, X, that thing, whatever the fuck is going on with that thing. What about ADHD, and I haven't really talked a lot about having ADHD, and it has been coming up quite a lot because I think there's a lot of conversation about diagnosis and sort of that post-diagnosis afterglow that you get. It's kind of like a honeymoon period. But once you've been living with ADHD for some time, there are other things that creep in. It's like it is very much actually like being married. And those first couple of years of marriage, it's different to the sort of more long-term stuff, and longer-term strategies tend to get neglected in discussions about ADHD. So someone did mention that, and I might if I run out of things to talk about, I might address that at some point. But I have just shown up because I needed to do a stream. I'm aware that I haven't been doing it. I'm also aware that my last fucking video, I promised to do a daily comedy diary, forgetting that future Taya is way, way, way more organised than current Taya ever is. Current Taya thinks very highly of future Taya. Future Taya is very pissed off with past Taya for making commitments that she fucking can't keep. So it's not going to be daily. It will probably, and also, like, there's just too much. I'd rather do, honestly, maybe slightly longer and less frequent, because once I get going, right, once I get talking, I'm better, right? And also, so much of my energy at the moment is punching up. Okay, so what happened, I'll talk about this in the journal. I'm going to record the journal after this. This is mostly a warm-up. But what I found out is I don't have any fucking jokes. I have lots and lots and lots and lots of comedy writing. I have a lot of great, funny material. Don't have many fucking jokes. So I've got to restructure everything. Like, there's a whole technique. It's a whole, like, and again, I don't want to overthink it. There's a balance between overthinking it and, doing it, moving on, getting it done, especially when you're afraid. Like for me, I could obsess about the structure of the joke for the next 5 years, but I'm not going to do that either. So anyway, but that's where I'm at. My head is at trying to write funny material and get it punched up. Ready, because I committed to doing a open mic, but I don't have 5 minutes that I'm comfortable with. I have 5 minutes of, okay, correction. I have 5 minutes of material, but I don't have the kind of material that I would be proud of. And it's still better than I think most people, because most people don't go to open mics with prepared material, but I do take it seriously. And once I do start, I want it to be good. So I'm putting in just that little bit of extra love and attention and learning some of the structural aspects and elements to jokes. And I'm realizing that they're not quite there. So I'm having a bit of a freak out and a bit of a spurg out over all of this stuff. But when I'm doing that, I find it very difficult to think about anything else. It's like, it's what makes me good at stuff, but everything else disappears. Okay, I get tunnel vision. That's what having ADHD is all about. It's like, it can cause problems if you don't know how to manage that sort of stuff, and also manage the sorry, I'm just putting my coffee down on the shelf. Managing the ups and downs, and especially the emotional ups and downs that go with this kind of thing, because you also end up having this self-doubt, which is, it's like, well, is this just another silly obsession that I'm going to be over in 3 months and bored with and move on to the next thing? Because obviously, I'm still doing law school. I'm on a hiatus, so that's why I'm giving myself, I've got about, I think I've got about 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and then law school kicks back in. So that's why I'm like intensely, obsessively doing it, like all of the things that I've got to learn and do a crash course, because I won't have time to be learning. I'm already like very, very, I'm so tired. But yeah, so, there's a lot of stuff, but I'll talk about that in the comedy diary. I'm still gathering my thoughts there, but I just wanted to sharpen stream because, again, I waffle. When I have a break from streams, I get worse at streaming. It's just one of those things where it's, running, walking, exercising, lifting weights, every time you miss it or you skip a day, you have to go sort of 2 steps back rather than, forwards. So, hi. Hello, Stephen. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your patience. So yes, I apologize for over-promising on the comedy diary thing. I think if you know me, you'll know that I have a tendency to overcommit, unless obviously someone's yelling and screaming. If people are obviously, I always keep my promises, but I kind of have this, I have non-core and core promises. If you know our Australian Prime Minister, when he broke his promise over, he said that he'd never introduce the GST, and then he sort of backpedaled on that and said that there were core and non-core promises. And I sort of, I have not core and non-core promises, which I think a daily comedy diary, especially an edited version, it's not realistic. Okay, if it's unedited, maybe, but like not edited. And the unedited version, I've already promised to patrons that they'd get that. So I do need to keep something for like yeah, I need to make money. I need to grow that fucking thing. I haven't given it any attention. I'm sorry, but I will. I just got to get ducks in a row first. And yeah, so hello. But yeah, so like ADHD, right? I was thinking about that. Someone mentioned that. What was I saying? So someone mentioned that just before on X, Twitter, bird fuck, whatever, bird shit. Who cares? What's it called? Who knows? I know what it's called. It's called X, but like, I don't know. I don't like it. Doesn't feel right. Really doesn't feel right. And I'm only there because I'm kind of being stubborn. It's like that. Well, it's like that thing where when you're on the fence with something, sometimes it's good to just sit and observe and just sort of go, okay, I'm unclear about what's going on here, because I mean, one thing we do know is that Twitter has been dying since its inception. Okay. Twitter is a piece of tech or a product that actually, if you know much about the history of the platform, it survives in spite of itself. It's something where it has survived in spite of its product managers, in spite of all of the attempts to kill it, in spite of owners and politics and CEO, no CEO, co-CEO, different board stuff, like all of that stuff. Twitter has always pulled through in spite of itself, because the product itself is co-designed by users. It was, and it kind of whether those who own it believe it or not, they actually don't own the magic that is Twitter, and there isn't something that can replace it yet. Like Threads people, they're just weird. Threads, I keep going on Threads, and it's like, well, okay, maybe it's because I don't get any engagement other than bots, right? It's no different to Twitter. Like, I'm getting flooded. Every time I post on Threads, I get flooded with bots. And I don't know why anyone thinks that Twitter's any different. I get, like pussy and bow. The difference between sort of Twitter bots and Threads bots is that Twitter at least memes on the bots, right? It's actually fun, right? The pussy and bio shit. That's hilarious. That's something that Twitter survives in spite of those things, because that's always been there. And it's always been shit. Twitter's always been shit, and it survives in spite of itself. And that is the love-hate relationship that I think everyone has with the platform. If you're a power user, and I would consider myself a power user of Twitter, whatever that means, for better or worse. I've been on and off over the years, but for the most part, I consider myself a sort of power user, expert, prosumer of Twitter, right? I used to be more professional in it, but it's always been my personal playground, favorite platform. And it's something that, like I've said, most of the features were asked for by users. They were, the users determined the use of the platform. The culture of the platform was built by users from the ground up. And Twitter, for the most part, so long as they remained in the service of users, okay, and that's again because I was a user experience person, I see that Twitter listened to users more than the other platforms. Facebook was very much a top-down A/B testing, measuring fucking experience kind of thing. They'd implement new features, understand that there'd be some pushback, and then people would get bored, but they'd still keep using Facebook. But Twitter, especially the early days before you had hashtags, and like the hashtag came out of the users with South by Southwest and those other things, where they realized that they needed to have a search term to find each other. Okay. Much like, the lolcats and macros and memes came out of 4chan, the hashtag, I think people need that little sort of internet history about where things came from. And the hashtag actually was a user-generated feature, as was retweet. So basically what would happen was, again, I'm probably boring anyone who's been around for a long time, but there are people who don't know this. This is not common knowledge, but, quote tweet, retweet. They started out because they didn't actually have that feature. So what you would do was copy the tweet, put RT in front of it at the person, and they would that would be a thing that you could then on share, right, and do that sort of thing. Didn't even have favorites. Okay, they weren't likes, they were favorites. I think they're still called favorites. Who the fuck knows anymore? They didn't have any of these features, but a lot of those features came from the way people used it. Okay, and that was a very early example of how co-design with users can be effective. But that's part of the reason why X will. Again, I'm not going to make predictions at this point because it's really like, who the fuck knows? It's almost like it is surviving despite active attempts to wreck it. Like I saw that, oh my God, the April Fool's tweet from the platform where they were basically like, ha ha, in the interests of transparency, what we're going to do is leak everyone's DMs and drafts. You don't, like, what the fuck? What 12-year-old is running this thing that they think that won't spook people? The fact that has crossed, it's like, it's not funny. Like, again, I understand it's April Fool's Day, but yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. People are already anxious about their security and data security, and not to mention the fact that is actually now technically in breach of the Digital Services Act because you're not supposed to deliberately share misinformation. Someone tweeted this. It's fucking spurgy as hell, and it's funny and pedantic, but technically it is in breach of the TSA. Even if it is humor, that would be an interesting test case. But at the same time, like, holy shit, don't remind me who's behind the wheel of this thing, because I keep using it and I want to forget that. I want to forget who owns it. I've got him blocked. I want to forget the potential for these things to be leaked and for someone to go in some manic episode and just suddenly decide that they're going to do it's like, I think before you go joking about mass leaks and mass security breaches, you check to see if that person who owns your platform is stable and the CEO isn't an idiot. But that's just me. Anyway, that was a weird fucking April Fool's joke and it's made me very uncomfortable. But anyway, so Twitter. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but then I just thought, oh yeah, let's talk about that. Gather by the campfire. But these things were, like I said, that's part of the reason why I stick with X is because if you've been on Twitter for any length of time, it goes through ups and downs, okay? People have had fatigue. People are leaving, but the people who are declaring that they're leaving, they're kind of like those people that are like sort of on Facebook where it's like, it's complicated in a relationship. It's complicated in a relationship. It's complicated in a relationship. And then they're like tweeting statuses about how they're so over them. Like, you go on Threads, they're still talking about how much Twitter sucks. And it's like, well, if you're over your ex, you don't talk about your ex. I don't even think about any of my exes anymore. I don't think about them because I'm over it. That's what it means to be over someone. If you're sitting there talking about how over something you are, generally it means you ain't, and it means you're still probably quietly using it. Okay. And that's what I find funny is that, again, it's hard to pass sort of what is your standard, 2011. I mean, who was it that fucking, is it Keith Olbermann? I think he's quit Twitter, and he quit Twitter in 2011. So there's only so many times, and I'm guilty of this too. I try not to say I'm quitting because I know that I can't. I feel like an alcoholic who is sort of maintenance drinking to avoid the DTs, right? That's how it feels for me, is that I go on there just as a maintenance for my addiction, but I acknowledge that. But that's because I haven't been able to replace it, right? As soon as there's something that replaces it, then, if like Threads is opening up to the Fediverse, how that goes, only know. I don't know. Okay. Is anyone's guess, but, they're trying to make Fediverse happen. I hope it does. I think it's good, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I've talked about that before. I'll revisit that maybe at some point once it goes live for everybody, and I'll start to see. And I haven't been part of getting stuff done is that I am not really across what's going on in the news. I mean, the thing I saw this morning was that Texas has a fucking bird flu outbreak. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go again. At least we're prepared this time for all the crazy shit that's going to happen. At least I feel like I'm somewhat inoculated from any like pandemics for the near future. At least I feel like I'm inoculated because a lot of shit went down. At least I know to go buy toilet paper. and I've been learning how to bake. I know how to bake. That's what I've been doing a lot too. Is I find it very cathartic and relaxing. It's like, um, learning how to make proper bread. It's a gateway drug. Pizza dough is a gateway drug. I decided because my son really likes pizza, and I thought, well, I don't like buying pizza because it's not very healthy, and I didn't like buying the bases, and so I was like, oh, I'll just learn how to make pizza dough. And I've always been afraid of baking, right? It's kind of one of those things where I'm an intuitive cook. I'm someone who does, handful of this, pinch of that, learn by trial and error. I'm terrible. Again, ADHD. I'm terrible at following recipes. It always goes wrong. Like when I made hot cross buns on Good Friday, I was reading the recipe and I accidentally put the sugar in the thing rather than in the dough rather than in the mix, like that kind of bullshit, right? Even though I just can't follow a recipe. I'm terrible. But I do like prepare ahead of time and mise en place and all of that sort of stuff. But it's just ADHD. I'm more of a trial and error cook. So baking, the precision of baking, is not really. It's quite intimidating for me. However, I learned about this thing called Baker's. What's it? This Baker's ratio, Baker's percentages or ratios or whatever, and so you can actually just I've learned some stuff. So I learned how to make a basic pizza dough and how the various ones work. And then I kind of was like, well, if I can get the pizza dough to go well, then maybe I can make bread. And if I can make bread, then maybe I can make cinnamon scrolls because I like cinnamon scrolls. Maybe I can make hot cross buns. And then all of a sudden, and Paul's work has this cornbread. I think it's like a polenta bread or cornbread that they had at his work and then they stopped making. And him and his colleagues have got this sort of obsession where they're competing to try and recreate this bread. And so he's been spurging out over the fucking bread. And so there's bread everywhere in the house. Half of it bricks, but we're getting there. We're almost getting to the point where I actually made some good long rolls the other day. So that was pretty good. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I've been doing a lot of baking. I'm not across the news because I've been, I think sometimes you just need switch off time. I have fatigue. And every time I log on to Twitter, it's just full of fuckwits. And there are a handful of people there that I really appreciate. And I hope that we push through. I hope that we pull through. I don't understand the logic of Threads people pretending. It's like, well, I prefer the billionaire who's openly fucking unhinged. Like, you do know that, like, Zuck's building a bunker too. And I don't understand how they. It's just the only conclusion I can come to is that there is obviously Facebook are paying people. I imagine they'd be paying people to post on Threads. Anyone who has moved to Threads and is saying I'm moving my whole audience to Threads with Facebook's money, I would assume that they are being paid to post on Threads. Okay, that's just a basic fucking strategy that I would do to promote and compete, right? Which is to pay people to move over. Okay. That's what they do. That's what Twitch did. It's what the streaming platforms do is they take the big content creators and they give them either a bigger cut of the revenue or they pay them to move over. I would imagine those things are occurring in the background. Okay. If not explicitly, I haven't looked it up, but I'm just assuming that that's the case. So that's part of it. But I don't understand why people are just like people who are ordinary with an ordinary number of followers. See any value in it? Like I don't see the value at the moment. It doesn't have an API, which again should be going live in June. So once it has an API, I'll set up a thing where I cross post to everything and hope for the fucking best. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. But till then, I'm just going to stick with X because it's gone through these cycles repeatedly, right? It might. I have a feeling that it may just. I have a feeling that he's bought it as a way to write off other things. So it seems like a bit of a money printer in terms of tax avoidance. I think that Musk knows what I know, which is that Twitter survives in spite of it and that he can run it to the ground, write off the losses, run on fumes, and it will still survive. That's what I think. I've gone from being a 75-25 defender of Musk to now just not really. No, it's I've gone full Kara Swisher on Musk, right? I think it's just it's nah. You can only go so far, right, with charity before you go. Um, and again, that might be my baggage, but also anybody who deliberately alienates children from their parents, which he has done with Grimes, then I just tend to go, you know what? I think, true to form, I think you're a bully and a narcissist. There's a point where autism is not really an excuse. Anyway, so anyway, I rambled on. So yeah, but I think Twitter will survive, but I think it's just going through a tough time. I hope that maybe at some point it does become, I think anything that is, let me think, any kind of social network moving forward needs to be decentralized, and it needs to be a co-op, and it needs to be, like I've talked about, I've been thinking about turning this into a paper, but I've got too many things to do, right? But what you could do is use public libraries as instances, so that you've got, at the local level, you have instances and servers, and your library card serves as your gateway to those sorts of things. So you've still got that local component, but individual communities can decide who they want in and out. So you've got that geographic representation. So you go to your local library and you sign up. Again, the option of that, you can still run your own server if you want, but I'm saying as a public option, using public libraries as nodes or as instances for the Fediverse, which there's a certain, you sign on to the public code of conduct for that, which is in alignment with, you are in public, you are using a public service, here's the code of conduct. You want to do whatever, run your own fucking server, otherwise here's the rules. Much like in a library, again, the library could be a means of because that is a community, it's a place where the community gathers. It is an information source. It's where people can already access the internet. And that seems like a way to address some of this. Unfortunately, what you'll find is that, tech is overrun by capitalism bros and tech bros. So it will just be, again, logistically, I think that would be the best way forward, is for worldwide, for community centres or public, again, councils or libraries or even shopping centre partnerships, to have some sort of public instance that is connected into the Fediverse. You have a public option, but then you've also got the option to roll your own server should you want to do that, or run your own community should you do that. You can go off and do that, right? I think, but that all is decentralized. But at the public level, you have access to news, breaking news, all of those sorts of things. You don't necessarily, and the public option, then that if you are using a public account, that you're not going to see Nazi bullshit. That you're not going to see hate speech, and that's where you can have that compromise. You can have that sort of clarity around public and what's appropriate on public servers and what is inappropriate, right? I think that might be a good way forward. I've been thinking about that a bit, but again, you can only do so many things, so it's not something. Feel free to take the idea. Just don't ruin it. Okay. If you're going to take it, implement it well. But anyway, so but something like Twitter, the magic of Twitter is its users, and what I find very interesting is the sort of government brands. I've talked about this before, but the government brands, the journalists, the previous blue check users, and those sorts of people, where they're basically announcing their departures. And again, they forget history, which is that it was when they showed up that the platform declined. The platform started to decay the second corporations and brands and government took it seriously. Okay. The second that, I never really recovered from hearing the president tweeted. Like, it's an inherently fucking ridiculous idea that the president of the United States would be using Twitter in any kind of serious way. If you are old school like me, you know that that's the case, right? It was for comedians, budding comedians, everyday people. In the early days of Twitter, you did have some version of that localized those localized clusters as well. You didn't have a huge, the celebrities created the cross pollination of sorts, but before they all showed up, a lot of it was local. So you'd have all of your local, it was a lot more, so you had your Perth Twitter, you had your Melbourne Twitter, but then you'd have people sort of cross pollinate, obviously, around events and that sort of stuff, or fandoms. But for the most part, it was never meant to be, it was meant to be more narrowcast, even though it was technically broadcast, okay. The approach to it was sort of quite decentralized, narrowcast to begin with, right? And I think that that's what's really interesting, because it is funny. It is very difficult to figure out whether X is dead. It's hard to figure out. I don't have access to the stats. If I had access to the internal data, I'd know if it was dead or not. But unfortunately, I don't, because users are leaving. But a lot of that stuff is, like I said, people are just taking their audiences. You don't know who's been paid, who's not paid. Every time I log onto Threads and try to post anything, I get flooded with bots. Okay, how the fuck they're posting, I have no idea, because I don't have access to the API. There's no API. I think it's in beta. So it must be an enterprise grade account that's using that API, because I can't use it to cross post. I think it's more of a script. It's probably an external script, not an API. But anyway, it's probably more like simulating the browsers. Anyway, shut up, Taya. Go away. But every time I go on Threads, it's just influencers talking about stuff that's like how they left Twitter and how they hate Twitter and how they hate the other place, and a bunch of wannabe influencers like with boring bollocks. Again, I have been following people slowly on Threads, but I do also need to watch how many people, you need to watch your ratios, your following to follower ratio, because that can affect your account and stuff as well. I've gone through that in the past, where you don't want to have so you got to kind of grow an organic following. And I haven't seen any compelling evidence that Threads is any less dead than Twitter. Okay, maybe I'm just unpopular, which I think is the case, but that's a whole other thing. But maybe I'm just too old school, and maybe I'm not invested enough in growth, hacking and all that sort of stuff to do the things that you need to do to grow now, right? I don't want to grow another thing. I really just, I don't. Other than my Patreon and the things that I'm obviously consciously trying to grow. But I don't want to just grow a Threads account for no fucking reason. Like, why would you do that? Like, I've done that. It's more trouble than it's worth. And it's owned by Meta. Like, if anything, if you are moving over to Threads and just continuing with the same old bullshit, rather than thinking about your relationship with social media, how much you share, the stuff that you're giving, it means you're an idiot. It means you're an idiot. And really, if I see Threads and these other things as an opportunity to change my behavior, not engage in bullying. But it's just like people are just looking for the easiest way to bully the largest number of people. And it's like, well, that's not how I want to do things, right? I want to do something actually meaningful and quality, right? And it's been actually really interesting, because since I've been learning how to actually write a joke, I find this stuff, I find a lot of it, it's like, well, you're not that funny. Oh, wow. Look at you go. It's interesting, you know. If anything, nothing ruins comedy like learning how to do comedy. But my jokes are better. I've got some really, really good bangers. I just got to work through them. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, it is funny because it's hard to know. Like, I'm still just sticking with Twitter for now. Again, mostly out of habit, kind of half-assing it. I don't know. I think I'm just enjoying my introversion more generally. I think I'm just fatigued now. Right, one of the bits that I've been working on, and I've said it before here as well, which is that, I was a weird kid and I got on the internet to escape bullies. and I got online for introvert. The internet was a place where introverts and victims of bullying and people who didn't fit in the real world went online to find other like-minded people and connect and avoid these people. And now we've had our spaces just completely raided and taken over by the people that we were trying to avoid. And now, in order to avoid fuckwits, you've got to go offline. And it's like, okay, so how do I do this thing called sunlight? I'm kidding, but you understand my general point. And it's like, it is quite ironic that I'm, I went on the internet to escape being around fuckheads and bullies, and now I'm the next natural conclusion, because I've been shouted down and off the internet over the years, is to go and sit on a stage doing stand-up. Like, that's like the most real life fucking thing you could ever do. And it's quite funny, isn't it? I'm still, again, obviously this isn't the bit, there's no punchline, but I'm just saying that's the premise. But it's just it's frustrating. And again, part of that's aging. Part of it is just getting older. Things move around you. Things just shift and move, and suddenly they're talking about your age and how you're a woman of a certain age and therefore invisible. All of those sorts of things. You're being dismissed by people who think they know better, having things explained to you that was actually your IP 20 years ago. It's always my favorite. I'm turning 45 in a few weeks, and it's been interesting to see that slow dismissal that's going on. Like, as soon as people find out that I'm 45, not 35, because I do, even though I do have some tells of aging, I do look young-ish for my age. I can pass, right? It's interesting to see that happen, where nothing I say actually gets heard anymore. You go back to being infantilized mostly. So there's a window of about 4 years where women get listened to. And like in your 20s, you're an idiot and a bimbo and they just want to fuck you. And then you get to your mid 30s, and you get to your 30s and people start to listen to you. And then you sort of go on a rapid decline after 38. And then men just stop listening to you. But they, instead of just wanting to fuck you, they actually want to fuck you in a violent way. Like, it becomes the nature of their non-listening becomes more explicit, more disrespectful, and more dehumanizing. So that's always nice too, is that the threats get worse as you get older. So because they don't even have to, they don't even have to pretend that they want to fuck you. It's just a pure aggressive thing now. It's very interesting to watch that, again, sit back and observe those things. And it's quite interesting anyway. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not seeing the experience that other people are seeing. Go in and check your settings. Change your settings. Go into your interests on X and get rid of the interests that they assign to you. Like, you got to do it on the regular. Unfollow people, block people. Don't be afraid to block. Use the mute and block topics and words. There's all these settings in your profile that will make your experience better. Mute everyone. Who gives a shit? Also, if you are shadow banned and you are still shadow banned now, one thing I have noticed, because the new account that I created, when I changed the username to my old username, that became ghost banned again. So what is happening, I think, with the mass reporting is that you're still stuck on a list somewhere, and it's done via a list. Because if it was Twitter that was shadow banning you, it would be there'd be an ID number associated with the account, and it would be targeting the account at the account level, not your username. Okay. Whereas if that was the conclusion that I came to with all my testing, which is that there's usernames, lists of usernames on GitHub and all these databases and stuff, where you've got so many different rogue scripts and stuff that will mass report people or whatever. And those use your username, not your ID. Like, some do use your ID, but some just are straightforward reporting the usernames. And I found that, so once I changed that username and gave it a bit of time, my shadow ban disappeared. So I'm stuck on lists of people to target for whatever reason, but they seem to be crude scripts that are external, not internal to Twitter, because unless Twitter are, again, possibly really incompetent, if they were suppressing you manually in their system, the way that these databases are designed is that it would be linked to an ID number, not a username. So I think that's there you go, gave you some advice. So change your username if you think you're shadow banned. See if that helps. That means it's an external group or groups or number of people that are targeting your account. So that might help you. So anyway, but yeah, the ADHD thing, back to the ADHD thing. I'm going to stick around for an hour and then I'll do a pre-record of the comedy diary and then I will go. What was I going to say? Yeah, so, ADHD has its challenges and, but I think that talking about how it affects me, I mean, I got diagnosed with it. When was it? Fuck me, 15 years ago. So I've been diagnosed for 15 years, right? I've got various strategies. Some strategies just don't work. Okay. What works for me is making sure that everything that I do is captured in one place. And so that involves having some tech knowledge and some automations and that sort of stuff. But what I've been doing, especially when you writing jokes has been really interesting for my ADHD because I have to, like you've got scraps of paper, you've got thoughts, you've got, you're sitting down to write, you're doing all these things. You've got to make sure that you're capturing ideas as they come because it's very easy, they in and out. Especially with ADHD, I'll think of it and it will be gone. It's gone as soon as I think of it. But it depends on your process. But for me, basically the idea is to, if I'm scribbling on my table, scribbling on a whiteboard or using my table as a whiteboard, which is what I do a lot. If I'm sort of mind mapping, capture that in a photograph, send that through. I've got an automation that sends that to Notion. Okay. Your iPhone, if you don't know, reads actually, if your handwriting's neat, mine's not, but if your handwriting's neat, you can handwrite notes and it will actually read the text in there and you can copy the text and put that into a note if you like. But what I prefer to do is just because my handwriting is terrible, after years and years of working online and typing, I just take a photo and I put that into Notion. You can use Notes, but I use Notion. Okay. Part of the reason why I use Notion is because of the API and you can automate stuff with in the background. So I set up an automation. So if I tag a photo, if I send it to I use Telegram to automate a lot of my stuff. So if I send the photo to Telegram, Telegram will then send that on to Notion. Okay, extra step. I do have various other things. You can actually program make.com with Siri, but it seems to be like it's about 50-50 on whether it works and stuff. It's like a pain in the ass. The other thing that works for me is a Telegram chat. So I've got a Telegram bot for ideas and I just open up Telegram chat and I either record a voice message, which it then gets transcribed by Whisper, which is the OpenAI API. It transcribes it and then sends that into Notion, attaches the audio file and puts that into Notion as well for sorting. Okay, so it transcribes an audio note. But also I will just write a joke. So I've got a joke idea. I will just write it into a chat bubble, send it like a text, like a message, like a text message. And I will have that go to Telegram. Not to Telegram, to Notion. So I've got an automation in the background that sends that to Notion. Then I've got I've got a notebook that is a flip, like pocket notebook that's got a pen and stuff in it. And when I go for a walk, I carry that with me because I don't type in my phone. I don't like doing that. It slows my brain down. I record voice notes or whatever. So if I record a voice note or, and the same thing, if I write a note, the first thing I do is I take a picture of it and get that sent into Notion. So I make sure that everything, even no matter how scatterbrained it is, it goes into Notion for later. Okay. And that's like, and with Notion, the reason why I chose Notion, Obsidian is a free version of that, but I choose Notion because it has the AI features that I need as well. Right. So, I can get like AI feedback on things and various other things or summarize or whatever. Notion has the AI thing, which I like because it helps me. It does some sort of pre-sorting and, all that sort of stuff because I've got automations in the background that do that. And that makes my life a lot easier. So when I sit down to write, I've got kind of half collated stuff ready to go, no matter whether I'm recording a voice note or putting in a Telegram chat or scribbling on my desk or anything like that. Everything is in there, and it's got a summary and like various ideas and sort of, some of the work is done for me, right? So it's like having an assistant. That's how AI should be used in that way. And also Notion's API. Even though that's a bit of a pain in the ass because of their block system, I find that because I can customize Notion to work with my brain, coming back to ADHD, no tool works for me. No project management tool works for me because I can't control the way that my brain works. I can't be shoehorning my brain into a tool. The tool has to work for the way my brain works. And so Notion allows for me to customize that as a dashboard and I can have the fields that are meaningful to me and leave out the ones that I don't need, whereas with sort of preset project management like Trello or Jira or Asana or whatever, you've got to go and use their interface the way you want to use it, right? Oh yeah, I've also got it so that if I tweet something and I bookmark it and put it in a certain folder, that also gets captured into Notion as well. So if I think of a particularly funny thing, haven't been really sharing my A shit lately, but if it's sometimes a B or C thing can turn into a good idea once your brain gets sort of warmed up. I bookmark it and it will go automatically into Notion in the background. Same thing with LinkedIn, Facebook. They all, if I save them, they go into Notion for capturing later for further development. Right. Now, whether I move on and actually do anything with it is another story, but it is being captured. The main thing is I have a problem where things are not captured. So making sure that they are actually captured is a big part of it. Right? So that's part of my process. I know I've talked too much about this stuff, but that's how I have survived and why I think I present a more organized front, because I do let automations work for me as much as possible. I use, again, I have the technology to be able to build myself my own dashboard. If I wasn't doing it in Notion, I would have built my own. I almost got Paul to build me my own dashboard. And like I was going to design my own, but Notion came along and it was like, oh yeah, this does most of what I want. So let's just go with that. I'm thinking of moving to Obsidian, but the Notion AI is worth springing for, if only because it will summarize and, you can use formulas and various other things. And you can have it brainstorm sort of things, you know what I mean? Like you can have it just go, oh yeah, list. So like, for example, now again, I'd have to do a lot of this work. It's not very creative, but it is a good starting point. So you can ask the AI to, so if I'm writing something, right, let's say for example, so I've got a key concepts field, okay, where it's like, okay, I put in a cunt. Put in a let's I'm just trying to think of the scenario. So let's say that I do a voice message that's transcribed and I'm just sort of walking around looking like a fucking idiot talking to my phone, and I just write sort of indicative thoughts. What I can do is use those terms, but then what I can do in Notion is go in and you can have inline AI. So you can just say, define this thing. What is this thing? List 3 related things. Kind of just does a little bit of heavy lifting for you. And obviously, you got to use that with a light touch and not use it for writing, but it is very useful for inline, some inline looking up of certain things for further development of your work, right? That's how I use it and leverage it. And I think that's an ethical way to use it, right? Obviously, I would then, if it was a serious piece or something that needed references, I would, of course, then go in and make sure that was correct, do the research, make sure that was attributed. I don't use AI to write. I use AI as a tool to help optimize my workflow. Now, you wouldn't think that given that I haven't published anything, but a lot of it has been waiting on me finishing the site and thinking about how I'm presenting information, because I've got, I'm looking at doing more MC work uh, believe it or not, even though I'm talking shit here, doing more MC work, doing more speaking and facilitation. That's sort of that whole comedy sort of stand up thing, because I need stage time is stage time. Okay, it doesn't have to be doing stand up. MCing is a valid way to get your stage time, especially somewhere like Perth where um, every time I look at the comedy stuff, it just seems very cliquey, and I'll still do my thing, but it's um, I prefer to run my own race. But again, you got to do it. It's just something you can't avoid. But I'll talk about that in the diary. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to do more emceeing, but I'm trying to make sure that my writing is punched up too. So I'm trying to make it less serious and move more into sort of more humor essays. Uh, but also I need to make a living, so I need to have some sort of services page that sells some consulting, because I need to make money, so I need to make consulting money. So I'm just trying to figure out how to position that, because those things are at odds with each other. I do have an idea, and it's going to be video, but I got to record a video, and then if you're recording a video and it is the first video that people see, that needs to be compelling, written, punched up, well rehearsed, well performed, and all those things. So it takes time. It takes time and resources. So, yeah, but with ADHD, so actually, maybe I should actually talk more about maybe that might be a good topic for the next stream, is how AI can actually help ADHD, and how, like, I think most of the people who are critics of AI are critics of around the licensing and copyright theft, and making sure that people get paid and compensated. As a writer, I'm concerned, obviously, that, I mean, I'm not famous or anything like that, so it's by the by, but I'm worried with all of these lawsuits that it's going to further centralize the money, because basically what's going to happen is that, like, the New York Times will successfully sue OpenAI, or the record labels, or Disney will successfully sue them, or high profile influencers and bloggers who find themselves, or Redditors that produce a lot of posts, but your everyday user will be left uncompensated and have to so basically what will have to happen is that you will be at the mercy. You would have to sign up and get representation in order to get paid. So again, maybe that's something like the MEAA could do, so that royalties could be distributed to the MEAA, which is the Media Entertainment Arts Alliance here. That's the the entertainment union, the media union. Maybe the unions could play a role there. But then it's like, well, that effectively becomes pay a membership fee to get paid, and that's that whole. You end up in this thing where you've got gatekeepers controlling things that were yours in the first place, and that you own in the first place, and that in order to enforce your rights, it's pay to play. And I think that that's not necessarily the right way to go. I think data dividends are still probably the best solution, making the public get a payment based on their all of these. I think it's unavoidable. Not just UBI, but a dividend. Like, I should be because I gave more data, I should be getting more money, right? That it should be like, that's something that you can measure, which is the number of kilobytes that I contribute every year, okay? And how much they've got on me. The more they have on me, the more they've got to pay me to use that. And I should be able to control, and much like I'm thinking like the health record, right? The online health record, where in theory you're supposed to hold your record and you release it. You get a request and you then release that information. Okay, I think every user should be empowered to choose who has their data. They should be the ones who hold that data, and if others are going to use it, they can either approach you directly. Okay, so if it's researchers whatever, that they want that data, then they can approach you and you can say yes or no. But if it's for commercial purposes, then they need to reimburse you for that stuff. They need to pay for it. And I think that, again, that's not incompatible with capitalism. That is precisely how it is supposed to function, which is that I have something of value. You need to pay for it. It's not yours. You're taking something from me. I am providing you with a service or a good or information, and in exchange for that, you pay me. That's how it works. I own the labor. I tell you how it goes. Not this bullshit where you just, well, I mean, some would argue that this capitalism is about theft, but I'm a bit more charitable. In the utopian dream of exchange of goods, free exchange of goods and services between free-willed individuals who are of equal footing in a free society, I own everything that is personal to me, including my behavioural data. And if a company wants it, they have to pay for it. And if I am getting services from them, okay, there's degrees to which I can decide whether they have the bare minimum information, but if they want more information, then I get discounted rates. For example, in the instance of health insurance, okay? I'm making this up as I go along. I had no plan to talk about this shit today. I don't have any facts, okay? This isn't a fact stream. This is a riff stream. But I'm just saying, like, there's ways to solve this. There's just got to be political will. It's not just, pay people a UBI. Again, that is nationalising the burden of and privatizing the profit and making and sharing, socializing the losses. No, you can't do that. You've got to do one or the other. UBI is just a way of corporations and billionaires and shit just getting more and more money and outsourcing and the problems and the effect and the economic effects and societal effects to governments, and then trying to get out of fucking paying tax. Fuck off. No, you have to pay a data dividend. It's an absolute, it has to be a cost. Because again, price doesn't just determine value. It does help to provide incentives and disincentives, and pricing, it affects behavior as well, and people's perception of the value of something. If they're not paying for it and don't have to pay for it, then they don't value it. So they think that they can just, if they have to pay a lot for it, then they're going to have to keep that more secure. And there's all these other behavioral things that knock on from price. If you know anything about sales and marketing and the psychology of marketing, you know that, like, people don't value free stuff, and the more expensive something is, the more the perceived value is. But that changes behavior as well, okay? And that also applies to the dating world. Don't give it up. Make them work for it. If they work for it, anyway, that's a whole other fucking thing. The perceived value goes up. Anyway. Ugh. Don't settle, motherfuckers. Dumbasses. So anyway. But yeah, that's what I see. Like, I can't even remember what it was. So Stephen, hello. I binge watched Deadwood last week and I'm now completely at ease using the C word. Also cocksucker. You can't, yeah, I've got the swearing filters on here. Mostly it's not so much the swearing, but it's just to stop the abuse. Like the spam and content filters are one and the same. But yeah, I'm quite comfortable using it too. Yeah, whatever. I haven't seen Deadwood. I tend to turn off with westerns and stuff. I just don't like things that take themselves too seriously. But yeah, anyway, if it's got the word cunt in it, I could probably watch it. Is it any good? Oh my God. Okay, this is funny. So we started rewatching Grey's Anatomy. Well, I'm rewatching it. Like, I stopped watching some years ago, but so Paul suggested a new show called New Amsterdam, which is cringe as fuck, okay? And we were watching it, and I sat and I was like, well, if you like this, then Grey's is Grey's is better. Like, this is like woke bollocks. This is like a woke Grey's Anatomy. It's like cringe, right? And I was like, and so I said, you should really give Grey's a shot. It's fucking 19 seasons coming up on a 20th now, right? And I forgot that my husband has a tendency to binge until things are finished. Like, oh my God. So every night we're watching Grey's Anatomy. But it is funny because Grey's has a particular thing about it that annoys him. Like, it's because it's drama and it's got a bit over the top. Like it does this whole cringe call, I call it cringe callback, where they'll do the episode and it's formulaic writing. Okay. It's obviously a standard thing. It's just a callback to like, it's how you wrap up a story. But at the same time, it's just a cringe callback where, someone will have some profound speech that links back to what happened in the episode, and it's like, I think we were all the ones who lost our legs today, that kind of stupid labored metaphor kind of thing. And I've pointed it out and it's very funny, but he starts heckling the show, and he's now in this position where I think we're like Izzy's just married Alex. Was that season 5? But because it's just there's a lot of drama, and Paul's like, oh, it's too much drama. I hate this drama. And he's like, but he won't stop watching it. It's very funny. So I'm sitting there going, you do know, like, you voluntarily are watching this thing. You are voluntarily engaging in this. And he just sits there heckling the whole time. But every time he's like intently into it. And he's a little invested in Grey's Anatomy. It's very funny. But that's not dissimilar to my relationship with Twitter. I hate it and I love it and I hate it and I love it. It's like, oh, I won't ever quit it. Okay. So anyway, we're watching Grey's Anatomy all the time now. Like Dirty Shakespeare. Okay, I might give it a go then. Once we get through the 20 seasons of Grey. Oh God. Anyway. Yeah, but we've been, yeah. So we're watching Grey's Anatomy at the moment. But yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Because he's seen House, obviously. House is one of my favourite shows. So, I was like, well, we've seen House. Why don't you give Grey's Anatomy a go? That was a mistake. We haven't watched anything else since. It's pretty funny. Anyway. What time? We're coming up to an hour, so I think I might head off. But I am going to upload a comedy diary after this, unedited. Well, not unedited, because I don't want to promise unedited, because there might be things where I misspeak or whatever. But the full version will be on Patreon, and I'll edit a version and upload it hopefully tonight, because I do like to get it out. I'm getting faster at editing. My computer can't handle it. It's so fucking. It's very resource intensive, so it's I just got to try and figure out a way to make it work in a way that doesn't fucking labor. I can't do any. You can't do anything else while you're rendering or anything like that. So it's just very frustrating. And everything takes a long time. So I need to just tweak some settings and figure out how to get that working in a way that doesn't drive me crazy. But I'm working on it. Yeah. So I think that's it. I might talk about a bit more about AI, and I think the reason why I more defend AI in terms of its use, its application in terms of ADD, it helps me a lot. Like, it's really helped my workflow a lot. But I can see how it would make people lazier. I consciously try not to lean on it too much. Mostly because I do like when I'm doing all of these jokes and stuff, I do find that you can easily lean on it and be lazy and not do the actual rewarding work and the thinking part where your neurons rewire and you practice, like list making. I could get AI to just make lists for me and then add to it, but at the same time, it is the process of list making that actually helps your brain. It's the same thing with that fucking Captain Fuckstick Elon Musk and his thing about how you could use AI to get the TLDR of books. And it's like, do you not understand that it is the process of reading and visualizing and your vocabulary expanding and all of these things that happen when you read something? It's like, this is just, we're heading into an idiocracy. I don't know how the fuck anyone could defend summarizing a book versus reading the whole book as intended. And that's part of my dilemma around what I put out there, what I put up, trying to figure out like what goes online, what doesn't go online. I think I can block crawlers now. But there's all these other things. Do I paywall it? Do I not? How do you make a living but you've also got to give shit for free that goes into AI. It's kind of like it's like a bit of a zugzwang situation here, where there's not really any winning moves at the moment. So I'm just kind of waiting for it all to crash and burn, if I'm honest with you, and figuring out what the best way forward is and how I can not just work it for me, but then make recommendations for others, because obviously there's a lot of uncertainty around this stuff for everyone. So if I've come up with some plan, like obviously I use the OpenAI API to transcribe my voice notes and create a voice note. Like Whisper API is really good. Okay. Same thing with the Telegram. When I write a fucking nonsensical bullshit Telegram thing, it will take that and create a title out of it. Like the AI field does that, process that with ChatGPT to just, because otherwise it creates a title and then puts the body of the premise and text, joke ideas or whatever, into the body of the note, and it creates a title. That's an extremely useful use case for it, right? And it's like, okay, so how do you do that in an ethical fashion? Like I'm directly affected by a lot of this stuff. I was directly affected by the AI of content moderation, right? Directly affected by those rules changing in an the most severe way. I'm a victim of that. I have got a 30-year footprint. I can't get a job. When I say can't, I haven't tried. I've only applied for a couple of things that I really wanted. And from having sampled that process, it seems that most recruiters are relying on AI, and having talked to other people as well who are obvious shoo-ins for certain roles, they're just not getting past the AI tools. They're obviously using these heavy-handed filters where people are just not getting past AI. Unless you stack keywords. And because recruiters are idiots, they don't even have the critical thinking skills to check. Like they just go, it's in the system must be right. It's an actual cloud, I'm sure of it. And real estate agents as well, like they just uncritically implement. Again, I know, having worked in tech for a long time, and especially in implementing technology, and especially small businesses and stuff, they just they don't do it critically. They just take it on face value. They don't assume that there's a whole spam folder of discarded human beings sitting in some fucking thing there. They just go, oh yeah, no, AI knows best because it's magic. It's magic now. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think. I have to think less. I'm very busy. I'm very, very busy and very important. Recruiters and real estate agents and those types of people. Idiots. Idiots with too much power, very dangerous combination. And that's where we're at right now. And they don't even, no, this is just broken. And shitification everywhere. Everywhere I look. Our fucking coffee machine, Nespresso. Third Nespresso in 4 years. We've had almost as many Nespresso machines as we've had landlords. Things are pretty hard with landlords at the moment. Actually, I've got to ring them. But and it's a shame because their Virtuo pods are actually really good. And we went and bought a ground bean coffee machine, just a cheap one from Target, like a Anko, just one of those cheap ones as an interim. It's like $100. Because it's really expensive at the moment. And if you get, we don't have, I don't think people understand that if you rent, you are being squeezed for every last penny. The real estate agents actually know your income because you have to provide payment details and payment receipts of how much you earn. They are putting up the rent because they know that your pain point. They know how much you earn. They will put it up in line with that. So if you manage to scramble any spare money or any savings, okay, they'll take it. They're taking it, right? Yeah. Oh, hang on. I've got it. Wait, are you talking to me on X? Fucking multiple place. Oh, it's a DM. Okay, I'll look at it later then. But anyway, I think it's time I went anyway. I started wandering off. But yeah, this fucking thing. It's just like, can you just make a coffee machine that lasts more than a year? No, of course not. What we're going to do is put DRM in it. Oh, but we're a B Corp. Okay, we'll put DRM in our pods and but the machine will break every year. But what we'll do is make it so that you don't really have a choice because the coffee. The problem is that the coffee is actually good. We can obviously you can get heaps of machines that do the old Nespresso pods, but the Virtuo pods are so much nicer. They actually make good coffee. Anyway, can't trust the boys. The boys are on notice. So my teenage boys are being tested with ground coffee thing. We just bought a cheap thing just to for now until we decide what we're doing with it. And if I can get Nespresso to send me a new machine or whatever, I doubt it because if whatever. But that's another fucking trauma bond with these fucks. It's like, can we just have? Do you know what? I've got this. I used to have a standard which was like, if you're a good person and you don't hurt anyone, and you are, and you try to be better and you try to be a good person, I will like you and respect you and I've got no beef. Do you know what my fucking baseline is now? My baseline is basically, I will talk to you if you're not a cunt. And you'd be surprised, like, just how few people that is these days. Like, not a cunt is, not a complete and utter cunt is now my my threshold for whether I am like give anyone any attention or not. And there's not many. And that's really sad because I used to at least go, well, the baseline is that most people are decent, and I used to seek out people who were better than good. Now, not a cunt is my standard. And unfortunately, that's a shrinking group because everyone, again, I understand why. Like, people act that way because of various things, economic stress, trauma. People are still not over the trauma of COVID. You know, a lot of this stuff has gone unaddressed. People are feeling abandoned by everyone. Again, I understand why. Social media is not really to blame, but it's not helping in some areas. Okay. Actually, I should probably talk about that, the Jonathan Haidt thing. I'm so sick of this shit. Anyway, I solved that 2 years ago. Why does no one know that? I fucking already said that the evidence is not conclusive on social, and it's not, it won't be. I've already said that. Why is everyone not listening to me? Reminds me of Doug Stanhope when he's like, I solved that problem in 2003. With that, it's a bit like that. Anyway, anyway, I'm going to go. Unless someone wants to say something now, this is your opportunity to chat. I think YouTube's the only one that comes through. LinkedIn, I don't see. It doesn't seem to want to come through, unfortunately, unless I'm streaming. I'm streaming via OBS with the widget that shows the streams. The chat. The widget doesn't seem to bring through LinkedIn or X or anything like that. It only seems to bring in YouTube. I need to work out a way to maybe stream with the Restream dashboard and fucking fuck around. Anyway, I'm talking shit. I'm going to go. I will try. I do need to fucking get my shit together, and I need to start doing more streams. It's hard. The incentives to keep going are very, very thin because obviously I've got, I do like it, but I've got to level it up. And I feel this pressure to level it up. But to level it up requires resources that I just don't have. I mean, I think when you can't get reach for so many years and you can't grow, it becomes a self-fulfilling, a chicken and egg problem. Because I did have early growth, but then, yeah, it's just, I'm trying to figure out the best way forward. And obviously the Comedy Diaries will help, and doing that kind of stuff will help. But it's tricky to know what the next move is with everyone being so greedy and stupid. And I'm not calling everyone stupid, obviously, but I'm also saying that things are getting shit and shitter. The products are getting shitter. People's attention spans are worse. People will not tolerate just riffing like this. You have to give them something. I know this. Okay, I'm not stupid. I know what I've got to do. But again, if I've got to do that, then that requires a lot of practice and energy and scripting and a teleprompter setup and editing and all of that kind of polish that requires like resources and time. And time is a resource. And time that is taken away from other things that actually earn money. So it's kind of like a problem. And also remember that most of the people who stream and make a living, first of all, they usually have backing to begin with, or they have um, they have other sources of income to begin with, or they're picking a side in the culture wars, so they're doing culture war shit, or they're doing sort of more consumer tech shit, like the 7 top tip bullshit, right? Or doing cooking content or whatever that's a bit more sort of advertiser friendly, right? But also they're usually people who are natural performers. But they also will use free labor, like interns and stuff, and or friends. Like I can't pull on the support of friends, like for editing or anything like that, because my friends don't do that shit. My friends are all fucking academics and doctors, and they don't even give a fuck about my channel, right? They don't care. They're grown-ups. And I don't appeal. I'm not a fan. I'm not a cult leader. I'm just sitting here chatting. But yeah, so I've just got to figure out that there's all these tension points, right? You got to figure out what. I'm not complaining about things as they are. I'm just trying to figure out what I can live with in terms of, and what I prioritize and what fits where. And all I know is that I want to do something that is of high quality. And what medium that's in, I know that I'm going towards comedy. I'm going to do stand-up because I have to do stand-up because I have to learn how to deliver my jokes. And you only learn how to write good jokes by delivering your jokes. So it doesn't matter. Just to be a good writer, you need to do stand-up, even if you don't progress beyond open mic. But, I do want to start doing more humour. Especially, I think it's needed more than ever, good humour, rather than sort of punching humour, bullying and all that sort of stuff. April Fool's Day is just sort of the bully's holiday, the bully's purge, as I call it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm working on it. Be patient with me, please. Become a patron if you can, or if, again, like I said, if there's people that you think might want to support me to sort of level up or whatever, then give them my details and introduce me. I'm more than happy to partner or work with somebody who knows better than me in these things, or has the skill sets that I really have no interest in. I really don't want to. Anyway, I'm pretty coachable, right? I'm pretty coachable. But anyway, so I'm gonna go. Got to piss. Oh, speaking of got to piss, I gotta have a drink first. Mm-hmm. Stanley Cup. Oh, excuse me. And I will be back as soon as I can. I'm hoping. What I was thinking I should do is maybe stream on alternate days from the Comedy Diary. So at least I'm doing one thing every day, but I do know that every day is ambitious. See how I go. I don't know what schedule to do. I know that I've got to have one. I've got to get more organized. I think I'm just in a certain... Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll get back to it. But yeah, I'll let you know. It will be more than once a week, but at the moment, yeah, and the Comedy Diaries, at minimum twice a week. Let's go with that and go from there. It's not so much the production, the actual showing up and streaming. It is the preparation. Like here, I've just fucking talked about nothing for what? How long? That's not content. That's talking about fuck all. I need to prepare for things. I know what I'm going to talk about. But I also need to, focus in the right direction and focus in ways that move me forward. Because, I can't keep sitting still. I've been sitting still for too long. So, and then also I've got law school coming up, which, that tends to invigorate me. The busier that I get, the more productive that I get. And that's an ADHD thing, which is when I don't do well with no structure. So once there's demands on me, then I will usually rise to that. Like in the off chance that I end up on a tour and I'm doing shows or whatever as a stand-up and I'm booked, I'll show up and I'll do it. And I'll be, even if it's every day or whatever, I will meet it because it's a deadline and I've got to do it. I don't do well with flexible deadlines or open-ended things. It either exists right in front of me as urgent, or it doesn't exist at all. It's now right in front of me, or it doesn't exist, and that's unfortunately my brain. That's why I always encourage people to follow up if they've messaged me. But it's also why I tend to answer straight away, because I do have my things on, because I'm bad at replying to things and stuff, and I don't like making people feel bad. So I'm going to go. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Become a patron if you want to. I am very much in writing mode. I think what happens is I tend to go into this sort of mode, and then my output, once my energy increases and I kind of get into a groove, I will go bang, 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 bang. I'll be writing every day. There'll be published every day. There'll be lots of jokes. It's just sometimes you just got to sit and let the shit come out before you can, get to the good stuff. But I'm in that process of wading through shit at the moment, especially because I have had to go back to the drawing board and actually overthink, maybe learn the structure of a joke and how to do it in a technical way, so that I can do it predictably, night after night after night after night. That's what stand-up is, right? It's learning to do it to strangers predictably and show up and deliver. And that's how you get paid. You get paid for being consistently funny, good material. That's how you get paid. And you get booked quickly if you can nail that. So I'm putting the work in up front to nail that, and not get into any sort of bad or lazy habits from the get-go. So I'm working on those things. But I'm going to go. I've said that 7 times now. Fuck off, Taya. But I'll be back as soon as I can. Okay? I love you. And I'm going to record the comedy diary now and talk about that. So that should be uploaded hopefully tonight. Well, the unedited one will definitely be uploaded to Patreon. Editing takes longer. That might be in the morning, but we'll see how I go. Okay? It might even be worth scheduling it for the morning so that you don't have so much Taya, on any given day. I'm sick of me. I live in here. This bitch is crazy. Anyway, take care. I love you. Bye. Me. I'm reading your message now, Steven. Always do jump into my DMs or whatever and tell me what I want to talk about. Ask me questions and stuff. If you're on LinkedIn, obviously, I won't see that. So go on YouTube. Love you. If I don't do stand-up, I can always become a singer, a professional musician. See? Do-do-do-do. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bye. Are you going to cut out? Are you going? Hello?